dear soulmates, you're welcome to the tutorials for the basic bodies block. So the material we'll be needing for this tutorial is your pencil, your curved ruler, your straight ruler, long and short, and your scissors, your paper scissors. Ensure that you are using a different scissors to cut your paper. Don't use the same scissors you use for your fabric to cut your paper, because your scissors would easily go bad that way. Then we have our tracing wheel. Okay, let me just bring it out so that you see it. This is the tracing wheel. You know what we'll be doing with this later while we'll move on with the tutorials. And so we have the masking tape. This is, you can use any of them. Just ensure that you are using a tape that has a gum, but not a black tape. It's either a transparent tape like this or a paper tape. It's also called your masking tape. Then you'd also need your eraser, so that in case there are lines that are not straight, you'd just erase with it. Okay, so, and then of course your measuring tape. Then the measurements that we'll be needing for our basic bodies block is the shoulder measurement, the bust measurement, your half length, your half back, your full back, your chest line, your bust span, which is your nipple to your nipple, your waist measurement, your shoulder to your bust point, which is your shoulder to your nipple. All right, so now this is when you will talk about the basic body, it's like a shirt. It's what you use to create a shirt. All right, whether for a man or for a woman, it's called a bodice block. All right, bodice, bodies. All right, so this is your shoulder, this is your shoulder, and then this is your bust. This is the front of a woman figure, then this is the back of a woman figure. Now from your shoulder to your above your nipple, that is your half length. And then it is important to also measure for the back, because the back and the front measurements are usually not the same. They are usually not the same, because you have your bust on your front side, so your bust will actually lift up the measurement. So your half length measurement for your front is usually longer than your back, but a lot of persons don't notice this. When you go ahead to use your front measurement for your back, you discover that your zip will be poking, or you don't have a good fitting at the back, and then the back is usually inside, sort of inside. For the female, it is not entirely straight. All right, so that is why it's important to take this measurement. Then we'll also be doing fitting in the course of drafting out our basic bodies block. We'll also be doing fitting. You discover that most times your zip are always dancing, but let me just quickly chip this in. When you are going to fit a zipper for a stretching fabric, ensure that you iron your gum stay to give it stiffness. You iron your gum stay on that zip allowance side to give it fitness, so that the zip would not be dancing. All right, that's just a quick tip. So in this measurement, for the shoulder, any measurement you have for your shoulder, that's from this point to this point, you divide it by 2. Then for your bust, you divide it by 4. The reason is because when you are cutting, what we are actually drafting at, on our paper is the quarter measurement of your body. All right, so especially when it is circumference, it's going round. Now this is it. I'll just divide the body into 4 so that we would understand. For the front, we'll divide the front into 2. Now this is your, okay, let me just go to this fresh page. This is your paper. All right, here is your front and here is your back. So when you open up this measurement, you will have this as your front, then the other side as your back. So we are using quarter measurements to measure this. When you divide your front into 2, you have 1, 2. When you divide your back into 2, you have 3, 4. I don't know if you understand that. So any measurement you are taking around, you will divide it by 4. But for your length, you don't divide your length. For your shoulder, you divide it by 2, because we have this half part, this other half. It's also the same with the back. But you see, for the front, we have the bust on the front, we don't have the bust at the back, so they are actually like uh, um, two different sides automatically. So your half length measurement, you don't divide it by anything. Your half back, you don't divide it by anything. Your half back is from your shoulder to um okay, how will I explain it now? This is your navel. Above your navel, when you measure around, your half back is where that tape would go round from your front down to your back. So most times when you are taking somebody's measurement for accurate measurement, it is important that you maybe tie a rope around the person's waist. Tie the rope around the person's waist so that when you measure the half back, you will be able to, when you measure the half length, you'll be able to know where the measurement will also stop for the back. You would not have to start guessing. So accurate measurement is very important when you are drafting patterns. Accurate measurement is very important. Then ensure you tell your clients when you are coming to take measurement, please don't wear something that is too bogus, so that I'll be able to take good measurement. Wear something that hugs your body, that clips your body. I don't know if you understand that. All right. So then your full length, you don't divide by anything. Your chest line. Now this is your chest line, like where your armhole stops, or where you have your armhole, like the journey of your hand to your bust, sort of. So this is your chest line. For you to be able to get it, is you can just tell somebody, lift up your hands, let me measure around, or let me measure from your shoulder to your chest point. But most times we don't get the accurate measurement. So what we do is that you divide your bust measurement by 6, then you add 1.5 for ease. All right. So your bust palm is your nipple to your nipple. It's very important to be able to get where the placement of your dart. Then your waist is the tiniest part of your body. Okay, your shaping waist, that is above your belly button, where your half length stops. Then your shoulder to your bust point. All right. Then also your waist too. This is your shaping waist. Then this is your waist. All right. This is your waist before your hip line, or before your upper hip. That is it. In case we are going to be doing a full scale measurement, but first of all, we'll start with an half scale measurement. I would have loved to do the two together, all right, but most times when we do the two together for a beginner, you may not fully understand. Now let's move over to the tutorials quickly. So ensure that you have all these measurements in place. If you don't have that before now, you can go ahead, pause the video, and then take that measurement. All right, for our half length, we are doing the half scale bodice block first before the full scale. All right, my half length is actually 15. Okay, that is my half length. So I'll go ahead and mark 15 here. I'll come this way and also mark 15, so that we get a straight line. Right. So I'll come over to this place and also mark 15 as well, so that we get a straight line. Then I'll just connect. Alright, you can use your long ruler. If you have a long ruler, you can use it, but if you don't have, then you can just connect bit by bit like that. All right, so the next thing you'll be doing is to divide your bust is the highest measurement on this block. So divide your bust by 2 for a start. Divide your bust by 2. Mine is actually 33, so after dividing it by 2, I will have 16.5. Excuse me, that's 16 and half. But I love to add 2.5 inches suppression whenever I'm drafting at my pattern. Now the reason is because I don't like my pattern to the front and the back to be too close to each other. That's why I do that. And then you need that ease too, because when we are doing tightening, there are some things you'll be removing from the back that you'd have to also add to your measurements. When you remove the dart, you will have to also add like that, so that you'll not be short of space to also draft out those pattern. All right, so 16.5, then I added 2.5, so what I will have is 19. Okay, so I will just come over to this place and also mark 19, so that I will get a straight line. So this is it. Okay, so the next thing you'll be doing is to the 19 that you have taken, divide it by 2. All right, divide it by 2. Now you can divide this way with your tip. All right, if you are not so good with maths, you can divide it with your tip like this. What I have is 9.5, 9.5. So I'll go ahead and mark 9.5 as well. 9.5 here. So I'll be using my short ruler to roll down. Just connect the dots. Right. So then you go ahead to label where you want to be your front or your back. So for me, this will be my back, then this will be my front. Now, when you're drafting at a block, we don't add any form of allowance. That is the reason why I have exactly 15 here, which is my half length. You don't add any allowance. It is when you are transferring to fabric that you now start adding as much allowance or suppression that you want to add. Suppression and allowance is the same thing. Then for my back, I have 14 as my half back, so I'll just mark 14 here and also mark 14 here as well. So just roll down. Right, so the next thing we'll be doing is to get our horizontal lines, which is our shoulder to our bust point. Mine is 9, so ensure that you measure that. It varies from person to person. This is actually not a standard, but most times in freehand we are taught that it is a standard, but no, it is not a standard. Some persons bust point is 10, some 11, so that is why it is important to take measurements. All right, so this is it. I will not be needing my shoulder to under bust because I'm not doing a bustier tutorials, so I will do that later so that you people would see when I'm doing a bustier tutorials. But this is just a basic block, it's a foundation class. All right, so having done this, the next measurement we are going to be taking is our chest line measurement. So divide your bust by 6 and then add 1.5. For me, mine is 7, so I'll go ahead and okay, before I would mark 7, let's take our shoulder measurement. So my shoulder measurement is 14. I divided it by 2, so what I have is actually 7, so I'll go ahead and mark 7 here. So I'll move over to the back and also mark 7 here as well. So that is it. So for the neckline, I'm going to be taking 3 as the neck width, and I will take 3 as the neck depth. All right, for the front. So for the back, I'm going to take 3 as the neck width and 1 as the neck depth. So I'll have 3 here for the front, and I'll go ahead and mark 3 here. as well. All right. So, but if we are going to be actually doing if you want your block to be a turtleneck, all you need to do is to take 2.5. All right, 2.5 as the neck depth for the front. 2.5 as the neck depth for the front. If it's going to be a turtleneck, if you are going to be drafting out a turtleneck, you take 2.5. But if it's not going to be a turtleneck, it's just going to be a basic neck. Your basic neck is your round neck. That is your basic neck. It is from there that you can now style any neckline that you want to style. All right, so I'll just create a square here. So I'll just roll down like this, and then I'll go ahead to connect like this. Okay, so I'll go to the back and measure 3 for the width and then 1 for the depth, and you just square. All right, so do we see that? So the next thing you'll be doing, is to measure 1 here. And the reason why you're taking 1 here is so that you have a good curve. All right, so you come over to the back and do the same as well. So you take your French curve and then you just curve. Right, ensure that it's resting on that line. We see that. Okay, I think this curve ruler is actually better. Okay, so but you just look at it until you get a good curve that you want. This is not so curved, so that's why I'm using the smaller one. So I'll just go ahead and use this. Okay. Alright. So the next thing we'll be doing is to take our shoulder slant. For the front, our shoulder slant is 1.5, and then for the back it is 1 inch. All right, so you just take your ruler, you go ahead and you slant. Okay, so you do the same for the back as well. Yeah, so back to our chest line. You know, I removed 1 inch from the back. So what I will be doing actually is to add that 1 inch to the 7 I have as my chest line. All right, so because we removed 1 inch, we would have to add it back. You can as well just start from here and measure your 7, or you can decide to, okay, let me just do it. It is the same thing. You're still going to get the same. All right, so move over to this point and you also mark it as well for the front. And I know you might be wondering, why would the front not go down? No, it's we are using the back for the front. Okay, so that we'll get an equal chest line. Okay, so just for armhole fitting, the reason why we take sorry, that's a neckline, chest line. The reason why we take this chest line is for your armhole fitting, to know where your armhole is going to stop, so that you don't guess your armhole will not be too big, it will not be too small. So you just move over to this point, and then you connect like so. Okay, you connect like this. Okay, so to get your armhole curve, for the front you go up by 3 inches, and then you mark, then you go in by ½ inch, and then you mark. So For the back, what you have here, I have 7 here. Whatever you have as a chest line, you divide it by 2. You divide it by 2. So when I did that, mine is actually 3.5. So you just mark 3.5 and then you go in by half inch. Okay, so then you connect from this shoulder point